Hi, my name is Sevalot and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about getting the good sound of your mirrorless or DSLR camera, how I ended up with several microphones and why you should make a good research of what you need before buying. So this video will have several parts. I will give you intro of why I am ended up with those mics I'm having. Then I will show you the setup I'm using, which mics are set to what, which combinations of settings can you use. And after that I will provide the samples of the sound of different combinations, and so you can hear by yourself why it is not good to use the camera itself and what combinations of mic is best for your use case scenario. And before we begin, I need to describe my situation, my experience, so that you can gauge it towards your needs. I am a hobbyist, although I have been doing photography for 15, I think, years. I started to record actively video with the purchase of my Nikon Z6. Around 4 years ago. With the fact that you start to record video, you want to improve the quality, and of course you notice things about the sound and you want to improve it. Usually what people do is they buy some external microphone. Typically it is the kind of shotgun directional microphone with a cardioid pattern. It is very good for picking up the sound straight going into the mic and rejecting all the sound across the mic. Like this, I'm talking straight inside the mic. This I'm talking to the side of the mic. This is very handy if you want to record someone standing in front of the camera and talking to it. Although it is a typical scenario, but it was not for me, so I ended up buying the Zoom H5 stereo handy recorder, but hadn't any possibility to mount to the camera properly as I liked it, and it was sitting for several years, not actively used by me. But now I found the way to do it properly, and I will show you shortly in the video of how I made this construction. Also, I wanted to buy, usually what you do after buying the first shotgun mic, you find that it is not strong enough, and you tend to buy something more powerful with batteries inside, not the power provided by the camera, which has some gain control, which can make your mic more sensitive or less sensitive. And I ended up with this Sennheiser MKE 400, which has a good number of accessories coming with the mic. It has built-in wind protection, and it comes along with the dead cat, which can be put on to make it windproof even in the strongest wind outside. And it comes with two cables, one to connect it to your camera with TRS, and the second one TTRS to connect it to the computer, and can be used as the mic to improve the sound quality of your Zoom or other video calls. But what I found out during my travels is that it is not very suitable for what I do. It is not strong enough to pick up the birds in the wildlife, and when you are traveling it is very narrow and mono sounding, so sound is only one channel, and you don't have this stereo effect from understanding from sounds to the right, to the left of you. So it is not very useful for picking up the location sounds when I am traveling. And I forgot to tell you why to bother with those external mics in the first place. The onboard microphones of your camera are stereo. They're good to picking sound from different sides, but they are not protected from the wind, and they are often overpowered when recording anything outside. Because they are stereo, they pick up a lot of noise, especially inside when you record like this vlog setup. They pick up all the reverberations, all the echoes, making sound not very good. What I ended up with, I usually use this mic as my mic for video calls, and now it is plugged into Zoom H5, which acts as an amplifier, and Zoom H5 translates the signal to the camera. Why not doing it direct? I think this mic is powerful enough to be used as it is intended to be mounted on your camera, but my Nikon Z6 has a super noisy preamps, and I think something got worse with time. I'm not sure, but I don't remember them being so noisy when I used this camera some time ago. Even if preamp is set to 5 out of 20, so it is like the quarter of its power, it is already no noise noticeable in the voice recording. So to overpower, you need to be like this super close to the mic. The mic itself doesn't help that it is a bit noisy. What you end up to have any meaningful amount of volume, put it to the maximum gain here side. You put it to 5 out of 20 in the camera, and you need to crank up the volume in your video editing software. I use DaVinci Resolve, for example. It has a lot of his produced by the camera. I tested it with solely with my Zoom H5. It is not that noisy and quite usable even with the maximum gain here set on the middle gain on the Zoom H5, but I will show you in the moment how it sounds in different combinations. So this was very long intro. So skipping to the video showing how it is combined all together, what can be tuned, and then I will show you the samples of different settings, gains on the mic itself, on the camera, and so you can judge yourself what is noisy and what is not. So I will describe you this atrocious setup. We have a camera as the recording device, a storing device. We have a Zoom H5 currently in the role of amplifier, but it could be its own source of the sound. And we have the Sennheiser MKE 400 as the source of the sound for recording indoors, because it's mono sounding and it rejects a lot of echoes and it makes a more pleasing sound. And I use the Zoom H5 as a standalone recorder outside, where I want to capture the stereo sound of the sounds of nature, birds, and so on. So, what are the options for configuration? Of course, it is in cameras, microphone sensitivity. For example, for my Nikon Z6, there are settings from 1 to 20 or auto. And it is a very self-noise camera. It produces a lot of noise on the higher sensitivities than 1. And what I found out that was very almost unusable just connecting directly mic to the camera, because even though this mic has batteries, it has a built-in amplifier and can push out quite strong signal. It is also a bit noisy, so combining strong signal with of this mic and set to 1 amplification of camera, it was too quiet. So if you made a camera amplification more than 1, it already became very noisy and hard to remove this noise in during video production. So I will make all the sounds, all the combinations for you to decide which works for you. And just one more thing to show what could be changed. So the amp gain on the Zoom H5, and the mode of the Sennheiser, which is minimum sound, default sound, and more sound, more gain. And this is the low pass filter. I don't usually use it because there is no low frequency noise around me. So now we will switch to the sound test. Now you will be able to hear the difference in sound depending on which settings you make and which combinations can be used. I will reiterate, you can change the strength of the sound and strength of the noise coming with the sound in 2 or 3 places in the setup with the external mic. So it can be either the mic itself, if it is not the most simple one, because those simple ones having the power coming from the camera, they usually don't have any amplification settings. The mic itself should have the amplification setting. For example, this mic has 3 of them, less default and more signal. The camera itself has the mic sensitivity setting in some numbers, for example, for my Nikon Z6 is from 1 to 20. And in the current set app you are listening to now, the Zoom H5 is used as an amplifier, and it is set to 5 out of 10 possible. So the gain is half of its power. So how do this show in professional mic testing? Like this? Around 10-12 inches to the mic, 30 centimeters, I think. Now I will switch Sennheiser to the default gain, to default sensitivity. This is the sound of Sennheiser MKE 400 set to default sensitivity. Zoom H5 is working as an amplifier set to 50% or 5 out of 10 possible gain, and camera is set to the minimum possible gain, 1. And here's the handling noise of the mic in case you want to use it in your hand. Continuing our test, we have all the same settings. Camera is set to minimum 1, Zoom H5 is set to 50%, 5 out of 10 gain, and the mic is set to default, and now I will switch it to the minimum gain. So now mic is set to the minimum gain. I'm still sitting around 30 centimeters or 12 inches from the mic. And the zoom is set to the 50% and camera is set to the minimum. So now mic is set to the minimum gain. I'm still sitting around 30 centimeters or 12 inches from the mic. And the zoom is set to the 50% and camera is set to the minimum. So now mic is set to the minimum gain. I'm still sitting around 30 centimeters or 12 inches from the mic. And the zoom is set to the 50% and camera is set to the minimum. So now mic is set to the minimum gain. I'm still sitting around 30 centimeters or 12 inches from the mic. And the zoom is set to the 50% and camera is set to the minimum. So now we are recording at the same distance, 12 inches or 30 centimeters. And the Zoom H5 is set to maximum gain 10 out of 10. The Sennheiser is set to the default loudness, the middle option, and the camera is set to the 1 out of 20, to the minimum option, to minimize the noise of the inbuilt preamp. Now we will test the sound with the Sennheiser set to the minimum. The Sennheiser is set to the minimum gain out of 3 possible options, and the zoom is set to the maximum 10 out of 10, and camera is still on the 1. We are still around 30 centimeters from the microphone itself. I am not trying to change my voice to sound it louder or quieter. I am trying to use my default loudness of my voice. The Sennheiser is set to the minimum gain out of 3 possible options, and the zoom is set to the maximum 10 out of 10, and camera is still on the 1. Now we have switched the mic to the maximum gain. Sennheiser is set to the additional gain, the 3rd position out of 3 possible, and Zoom H5 working as an amplifier is set to the 10 out of 10 maximum amplification, and the camera is set to the 1. This is a quick test to show you how you sound inside using stereo mic of your Zoom H5 set to maximum gain. I will not set to different gains because the mic itself is very clean without noise, and it doesn't give any valuable information showing it to set to lower gain. So it is at maximum and the camera is at minimum and my voice is at usual loudness. Now we have MKE 400 Sennheiser hooked up directly inside my Nikon Z6, which is set to minimum gain 1 out of 20. I'm still sitting around 12 inches to 30 centimeters, or maybe a little bit more from the mic itself, pointing straight into my mouth. And I will show you the difference in sound and noise with different settings in camera and in mic, as maybe this is the case you will end up using only mic attached to your camera. So this is the test when the camera is set to 1, the mic is set to minimum out of 3 possible gains. Just to reiterate, camera is set to 1 out of 20, and now Sennheiser is set to default loudness. Here how this microphone sounds when the camera is set to 1 out of 20 and the microphone, the Sennheiser MKE 400, is set to maximum gain, the third possible option out of 3 options. It should be quite noisy at this point. But next I will show you why I am forced to use the Zoom H5 as a amplifier, because it is also very quiet without making it louder in the post. So now we have in-camera amplification or sound sensitivity set to 5 out of 20, 25%, and the Sennheiser is set to default option of sensitivity, middle one. Here is how it sounds with Sennheiser set to minimum option of gain and camera is set to 25%. I think this option of minimum gain is made for recording in very loud places. Again, we have default sensitivity on the Sennheiser and 25% of 5 out of 20 on the Nikon Z6. And this is maximum loudness on the Sennheiser, and Nikon is set to 5 out of 20 or 25%. Now I will change it to 10 out of 20, and then just for fun we'll show you how it sounds on the maximum gain. Now my camera Nikon is set to 10 out of 20, 50% of loudness, sensitivity of the mics, and Sennheiser is set to the maximum gain. Now Sennheiser MKE 400 is set to default gain, and camera is still on 10 out of 20. Now is Sennheiser set to minimum gain, and camera is set to 10 out of 20, and my voice is of usual loudness if this is how I usually speak. Now is Sennheiser set to minimum gain, and camera is set to 10 out of 20, and my voice is of usual loudness if this is how I usually speak. Now Nikon is set to maximum gain. This is totally unusable option. It produces a lot of noise. Sennheiser is set to minimum. Now Sennheiser is set to default option, and it should sound barely usable. Now Sennheiser is set to maximum gain, and camera is set to maximum gain, and all you should hear is just noise. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. I think you would definitely have some questions. If you want to have any more details, please leave the questions in the comments, and I will try to answer to the best of my knowledge. And if you like this video, please like it, leave those thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me, I usually try to do content balanced, describing the gear I use, the use cases, and the nature I capture. I'm very fond of wildlife photography and nature videography. Subscribe to my channel to see more of such content. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.